Now, let's set up a scenario. Let's say you're at the grocery store shopping for this week's food. You know it's a friend of yours in the corner on the phone talking to someone, and they're looking at bananas. Now, you give them a quick wave, hey, how you doing? They look back at you and give you that nod, what's up? And go back to their phone call looking at the bananas. Now, what do you do next? Do you A, get mad at them and go gossip with to another friend? Do you B, slap the banana and phone out their hands and tell them what's what? Do you C, get so mad that you never ever speak to them again? Or do you D, realize, must have been an important call. I'll just get back to them later. It's all good. And move on. Okay, I'm going to go with B. Final answer. Now, if you chose any answer other than D, this video may be just for you. What? Come on, this is some bull. Now, that's something called the ABC method. Now, in psychology, this is used to rationalize in CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, different thoughts that may not be the best decisions. Now, in that case, you could say, okay, they're looking at the bananas on the phone. I want to say, what's up? Now, that's what happened. You just said, what's up? They didn't get back to you immediately, or they went back to the bananas or the phone call. That's just what it is. Now, B, the belief is, how do you take it? Do you think they're just don't care about you? You think they're just busy? Whatever it is, that's on you. And C is the consequence. That's what you do next. So going to the point is, how do we handle these things when we don't think? Our minds are stressed. How do we interpret things? Now here enters cognitive flexibility. Now this is basically the ability to adapt to new and changing environments. You can think how important this skill is because there's always new things going on, happening in our mind and the world around us. So being good at shifting how you think is a very key skill. Now, if I was to ask you a question like, if you had a newspaper, how many things you could do with it? You probably say, okay, it's a newspaper. I read it. But depending on how creative you are, you might say, oh, maybe I can make a paper mache hat. Maybe I can line a bird cage. Or even let's shift it over to a chair, right? Let's go to philosophy. What's more real, the chair or the idea of the chair? Now, the chair could be an actual seat you're sitting on like what I'm doing, or it could be a box, it could be a table. But the point is, the way you shift your thinking to what you need to do, this is how you solve the problem. And that's all stress management really is problem solving. So let me give you another problem called the candlestick problem. So here are the parameters to see if you can get it. Now, you have a pack of matches, a box of thumbtacks, and a candle on a table. Now, what you need to do is affix that candle to the wall above the table and light it. Now, the rules are the candle cannot drip wax onto the table. It needs to be affixed to the wall. How do you do this? Now, take a second or two to think about it. Now, there might be different ways you can go about this, and I want to see what you guys think. Put it in the comments below. But overall, there is an answer. Are you guys ready? If you haven't paused the video to think about it, I'm about to put it up, and yes, that's the answer. Anyone got that? Now, I'm not even worried about did you get it right. I'm more concerned of how did you come to that conclusion? When I used to teach, I was big on the rationality of how you got there. May be more important to getting there in the first place. If you're wrong, cool, but let's break down the steps. And that's what cognitive flexibility is all about, because our brain loves filling in gaps. It wants to get to A to B as quick as possible. This was a survival mechanism, because if you think in ancient times, as I always say, there's no more saber-toothed tigers, you had only split decisions if it meant being someone's lunch or living on to the next day. So sometimes rationalizing, long drawn out thinking was not beneficial. So it made these shortcuts, these gaps, these cognitive biases, if you will. For example, now our brain likes to use things called schemas to make sense of the context of what we're doing in the world around us. So if I was in a place with a bunch of trees, it's a wooded area, wildlife running around, maybe a stream running through it, I could assume maybe I'm in a forest. Or if I'm in a building with a bunch of tables, menus, a person coming up to ask what you want to eat, you can assume you're in a restaurant. So these shortcuts, these schemas help us make sense. But like I said, they can go the wrong way, they become cognitive biases. These shortcuts can maybe help us, but sometimes they can make us make misjudgments that put us the wrong way. For example, if I heard the first piece of information and I only use that from then on, that wouldn't be very helpful if I got new information. This is what happens with confirmation bias or the anchoring bias, because now we're going off of what we only want to hear, what we already know. We want to confirm it over and over, or we heard it and anything after it just sounds too much because we like what we heard the first time. So you can see how this could be an issue. Now, if you see here, I have the letters S, P. Now, just freely thinking, what does that mean to you? Salt and pepper, stay please, strength, power. Now, depending on what your frame of thought is, it can mean anything, but what if I change it up and said, there's 2 periods now, maybe it's someone's initial, like Scottie Pippen, depends, I don't know if you're a Bulls fan, but basically, depending on the context, our brain gets led to another place. But let's switch this up one more time. Now, I've spaced them out a little bit more, so I want you to fill in the blank with 2 letters. So what comes to mind right now? Numerous words that can be made with the first letter being S and the last letter being P. Now, if I give you once again more context, let's say something you want to eat. That would be soup. Now, if we switch it up and say something that makes you clean, then it would be soap. See where I'm going with this? Let's try one more. Let's say that you want to go on a cruise. You be on what type of vessel? A ship. So you get the premise now. Our brain likes to finish the gaps. Now, just like that task, it's okay. You had many preconceived notions. That's how our brain works. And when it comes to stressing or just having irrational thoughts, you have to stop them and make sense of the context around them. So let's go back. Now, you can see from those examples of cognitive biases and our brain just like to fill in the gaps. This can lead to other things that can be actually helpful. Now, that's analogical thinking. This is taking different concepts and making sense of them and drawing from them and then solving the solution. Let's use a very general example: bird flight and human aviation. In ancient times, people saw birds flying and they're like, how could we do that? So let's assume the first people to try flying just said, let's just jump off the cliff and flap our arms. That's how what a bird does, right? But we know that's not how it works. You have to be lighter than air. But think about all the times in the trial and error. Maybe the next person put feathers on their arms and made fake wings, think like Icarus, and they did it again, but they probably died too. And they kept doing that until they figured out different ways, like let's combine different aspects of what we learned, the neuron pathways that are firing, we're growing the ability to draw from what we learned and apply it to real time. And eventually we got the Wright brothers in 1903, and then now we're going to space. So the journey getting there is based on how we combine. That's that flexibility, and that's how it all comes full circle. Now let's look at different ways we can actually do this in real time, because you know this is Mind Body One, where we get your mind right. We have different practical ways. Like we say, mental health is dynamic. So we can talk about doing this, but how do we use it in real time? Now the first one, you've probably seen this on this page numerous times, is the Stroop effect. So the color is going to be incongruent with the word. It's going to be a simple task on our new app where we're going to choose which square to press based off the color of the word. So for example, red could be written in blue, blue could be written in green, green could be written in yellow, and so forth. The goal is to override our thoughts, because our brain wants to once again jump to the conclusion, but you have to stop it. That's error detection. The region of our brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, or the ACC, is primed for detecting things that are errors or making sense of things that shouldn't be or feel a certain way. And this impulse control or inhibition control allows you to make the correct decisions, or if you don't make the correct decision, you reinforce it, build up again, and you do the correct one next time. And this is exactly what we want to do. So let's check that out. You can see that in real time. Now, the Stroop Task is a pretty great one, but we have a new one that works directly on cognitive flexibility. So this is the ability to switch your thinking in real time. So on this task, you're gonna have 3 different color circles: red, green, or blue. Now, if it's a red circle, you're gonna tap the button on the opposite side of the screen. If it's a green circle, you're gonna tap the button on the same side of the screen. And if it's a blue circle, you're gonna hit the circle directly. Now, the point of this is you have to stay in the moment and be quick as possible, but it's constantly changing the side that the circle's on, the color it is, and the directions that you have to do. So it's never the same thing each time. So by presenting these different screens and directions, you constantly have to adapt. And once again, we're using this in real time, so let's check it out. Now, this last one, this is where we take it up to the fullest. Now, just like you see, we scale things like you do in like a fitness workout, we can do that with the mental side, and we're doing it right here, because in this task, you're gonna have 4 circles, it's gonna be red or blue. Now, depending on what side of the circle is, you're gonna say one cue or another. So we're gonna go with foods and United States. So if it's on the left side, you're gonna say food. If it's on the right side, you're gonna say the United States. Now, if it's red, keep those directions the same no matter what side it's on. But if it's blue, you're gonna flip-flop those directions. So you see where that cognitive flexibility aspect comes in? So basically what you're gonna do, reiterate it one more time. Left side, we're gonna say foods. Right side, we're gonna say states of the United States of America. Now, if it's a red circle, regardless of what side it is, you're gonna stick to those cues. Left, foods, right, states. But if it's a blue circle, regardless of what side it is, you flip-flop the direction. You gotta stay in the moment of what do I do? Remember, oh wait, if it's on this side, I don't do that cue anymore. I do the opposite. So stay with it. So let's give this one a try, see how I do. Florida, Texas, Georgia, California, pizza, lettuce, Kansas, chicken, Pennsylvania, burger, New York, pork chops, Maine, pie, Minnesota. All right, so that was quite challenging. I had to call it out, remember what direction was what. I might have stumbled a few times. It's all good because the whole point of all of this is remembering what we got to do. Make sense of the situation in real time, reassess it, and then go upon it. We talked about it, how we do it in the mindset standpoint with the ABC method, all the way to cognitive flexibility, to actually doing it in real time with these different tasks. So I hope this made sense to you guys and you liked what you saw. The apps that you saw will be out very soon, so stay tuned for those to be released so you can do this yourself. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, get your mind right.